right, so sorry about being a couple of minutes late, everyone. It's just been one of those days where I've been running around, had a few meetings and a few other presentations. So I'm a few minutes late, and I'll probably have to cut it short a few minutes. So I had to remove one of the slides, but everything else, it should be okay. So welcome, everyone, and thank you very much for taking the time to be here. There we go. And just checking that there's no feedback. No feedback. We're all good. As usual, I've posted most of the links already in the description of this video. I will basically post everything else that I haven't already by at the very end, basically. So once the live stream is done with, I'll just post the stuff over there. So let's get started. All right, so today we'll be talking about a few different online tools, free online tools, that you can basically use to literally save you a bundle. So some of them I've covered. Actually, most of them I've probably covered in my various sessions. So if you're one of my students from Concordia or McGill, you've probably seen most of this stuff already. But it's important to realize that this is incredibly useful. These tools are available for free. On the first slide here, that every single one of the 4 tools that I'll show you are created by the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. So that's a federal regulator slash they're an independent a branch, if you will, of the government. So they're a federal regulator, and they regulate certain aspects of banking and financial products in Canada. All right, so they also have a secondary mandate as an educator. So basically, they want to make sure that Canadians are, number one, aware of what products exist, and number two, that the banks and other financial institutions that do offer those products, they advertise said products correctly to Canadians, and they don't misrepresent anything. All right, so here, the first one we'll talk about, and then, well, I have another link on top here, the budget one, but that's sort of more global. So the very first one, again, I've covered this in my sessions, but this way, anyone who isn't a graduate student at McGill Concordia can also view these online. So this is called the FCAC Account Selector tool. So obviously, this is for Canadians. If you're outside of Canada, unfortunately, obviously, this won't really work for you. But as you can see, this is basically an official Government of Canada website. Now, the reason I really like this website is, number one, because it's a government website, there's no ads, there's no pop-ups, there's no worry about, them having some hidden motivation about trying to sell me anything, right? As a matter of fact, they try very, very hard to be as neutral as possible. So some of these recommendations or some of these settings, options that you will see for some of these accounts, you will see they're if anything, they're understated in terms of which account is better than another. Right, so what you want to do here is you want to select your province. Now, I'm currently located in Montreal, so that would be Quebec. But let's say you're in Ontario, you're located in Ontario. So you would select Ontario, and this allows you to basically compare checking accounts and savings accounts across many different options available to you in Canada. Not every single checking and or saving account out there will be featured here, unfortunately. However, a large majority of them, or a large number of them, will typically be featured. The way this works is that it's really the responsibility of each one of the individual banks / credit unions' PR department, so their public relations department, to update this information with the FCAC. So sometimes you might find some information that is not necessarily up to date, but they're pretty good usually at providing the FCAC with most recent information. So again, select your province, because different banks offer different products and services in different provinces. And look at what you want to compare. So let's say you want to compare your checking account. So why would you care about it? How can comparing your checking account save you a bundle? Well, let's just do the math. Actually, you know what? I'll show you how to use this, and we'll do the math right after, right? Select what currency you want it in. Again, by default, it selects it to be in Canadian dollars. Now here you can also look at, this step number 4, that's an optional step. You can kind of further narrow down your selection by selecting, whether if you're a senior, you would select something like that. If you're young, so basically in your teens, you might select a youth account. If you're a student, obviously select that. If you're a newcomer to Canada, etc., etc., etc. Now, you shouldn't yes, it is true that whenever you're enabling one of these accounts, you might actually be able to get in certain cases a better deal. But by default, the very first time you run the search, do not enable or don't limit yourself to one type of account or another, because in some cases, for instance, if you're a regularly employed adult, you might pay, let's say, $9.99 per month for your checking account, right? And then if you're a student, they might cut that in half or by 75% or something like that. So you might end up paying $3 or something like that a month, right? However, there are other banks that don't offer a student account whose regular account is actually free, right? So now again, I'm just talking about saving $3 or $9 a month. So how on earth is this a bundle? Like, why on earth am I talking to you about this right here? Well, number one, don't underestimate any small amount. Small amounts do add up, especially if you're low income. But that's not really the main point. The main point being, a lot of times, a lot of these accounts, a lot of the not so great accounts, you will notice very quickly, are unfortunately not only do they charge you a certain amount, but in certain cases they also require you to lock in $1,000 in your account minimum. So you need to keep at least $1,000 in the account. And or you might have that fee. So if they're forcing you to keep $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 in your account, and in order to waive your account fee, well, that $5,000 could have gained you interest or earned you some form of income had you invested it, or put it somewhere else if you didn't need it short term. So it's sort of a hidden fee on top of an already potential account fee. Also, most checking accounts these days pretty much pay zero interest. Maybe they pay 0.1% if you're lucky, or 0.05 or 0.15, something along those lines. But again, checking accounts are really not meant for you to keep money in. They're just there for you to pay your bills. So if you know that a bill is due today, just obviously make sure you have the money in that account in time, or you have proper overdraft protection put in place without having to pay a massive overdraft protection fee. So having the right account, yes, it saves you maybe $5 a month or $10 a month. Then if on top of the usual $5, $10 a month fee that you have, they also require you to have a minimum payment, a minimum deposit of, let's say, $2,000. That $2,000 in a year might generate another, I don't know, $40. Let's say if it's a 2% interest rate. That you would be able to keep that in a 2% interest, or in a savings account paying you 2%. So basically, if you're forced to keep it in a checking account that pays you zero, well, then you're foregoing, or the opportunity cost, the how much it costs you to keep that money locked in there is basically $40 a year. Again, that's chump change. It's not nothing, but it's really not that much, right? Let's say $5 a month, that's $60 a year, plus $40 that in that other example. So that's $100 in savings, which again, it's not nothing, but honestly, you're not going to become a multi-millionaire with it. Well, hold on to your hats for a second, and we'll revisit this in a little bit. All right. So keep in mind that would save you roughly $100 a year, right? In this approach. Now, another thing too is, again, if you have a more decent account, it might actually pay you a little bit. Again, checking accounts are not really meant for earning you a whole bunch of money initially. But then you also have to look at the actual transaction. So you can also add here more filters. So you can even further look at, you can eliminate all accounts that have a fee that is greater than X amount, right? So if you want to just look at free accounts, just select 0, and then that way any account or that charges you more than 0, well, obviously gets eliminated from the list, and so on and so forth. But again, right now I'm just going to go just basic one here. Let's press search. Keep in mind, this is for Ontario. So we have 60 results. Great. So now you have the list of different accounts here. And let's say you pick, I just randomly here, Tangerine, because the first one that is listed. Let's pick this Alterna Bank one. And you can see sometimes certain companies have multiple. So you see Desjardins, there's 3 different accounts from Desjardins, for example. There were those 2 from Alterna. Let's just pick one of the bigger ones. Let's see, can I find a CIBC is there? Scotia, let's just pick... Now let's see it here. TD Trust, $3.95. All right. So now I've selected 3 different accounts. So this tool also allows you to compare 2 or 3 results at the same time. So I've selected Tangerine, the pay-as-you-go Alterna Bank one, and then TD. Obviously, Alterna Bank and Tangerine Bank are basically online banks, and you can see what how much they charge you. So as I said, this if you're banking with a bad bank versus an okay-ish bank, like bad bank meaning one that charges you high fees and one that also forces you to have a certain amount, you might save around $100. Again, not a huge amount, but so let's again, I'm not saying TD is a bad bank, right? I'm just saying that in this case, this account charges you $3.95. Here, obviously, you're saving $4 a month. Okay, in both those cases. But then you also want to you have to look at how are there any additional fees for every single transaction, because if you're someone who uses their Interac card all the time, if you have to pay a 50 cents per use fee, that's not a great option, right? And same thing. So for example, here you see, if you want to basically transfer any funds, this one charges you basically 80 cents for every single one of those transactions. Here you have $1.25, $1.75. And in the case of Tangerine, here most of the things are free. No, so there's no extra fee, no extra fee, no extra fee. E-transfer, here they say it's $1. As a matter of fact, though, I know for a fact that if you opt for e-transfer but a slightly slower process e-transfer, you can also get them for free eventually as well. All right. Now, overdraft protection, some of these will charge you a monthly fee no matter what. Some banks, however, do charge you that monthly fee if and only if you do not pay off you don't pay off the balance that you owe by 11:59 p.m. On the same day. So if you're able to pay it off on the same day, then you don't owe anything. You'll just get an email and or text alert telling you that your account is in overdraft. So overdraft protection is worth getting to avoid any form of insufficient fund like NSF charges like this. And again, as you see, they can vary. So between $40 and $48 in these examples. There are some that are a bit lower than this, others that are a bit higher. Again, I just randomly picked 3 banks in this case here, okay? So again, it's not just the fact that you might be saving those $5, $2, $3 a month in fees and or the additional potential interest that you might earn on a certain amount of money that is blocked in for there, but in the account. But also you have to look at how many transactions you make per month and how much does each one of those transactions cost you. So for instance, with Tangerine, they're owned by Scotiabank, so as long as you use a Scotiabank ATM, there's no fee whatsoever, right? Whereas it costs you $1.25 according to this for this particular TD account. Like obviously, there are other accounts where you pay a slightly higher monthly fee, and then you have unlimited or at least 5, 10, X number of ATM transactions included therein. So as a result, the per transaction fee is lower. So this is how basically those little sums add up. Because now imagine you're someone who sends online transfers. You send 5 online transfers and maybe you make 10 bill payments online every single month. If every single one of those costs you 80 cents, well, in this case, that's $8 here, $8 there, right? Plus plus whatever fees, or in the case of TD, $1.25 here, $1.25 there, and so on and so forth. So it's actually quite a bit more than merely the fee that you're saving, right? So now, as I said, this might not sound like a huge amount, but this will become very relevant when we go back and we talk about some of the other tools, specifically whenever you're dealing with paying your credit card off in a most efficient manner, okay? So as I said, this might not seem like a humongous amount of saving, getting a zero fee versus paying $3 a month in fee, but you also have to look at all the individual transactional fees. And you'd be amazed how many people just, they're looking at this, well, it's just the cost of doing business type of thing. All banks charge you a fee. No, not all banks charge you a fee. Look at the banks that have the options that you want and that offer you the services that you want. Obviously, if you want a brick and mortar bank where you can have for instance, a safety deposit box, where you can go and meet someone in person, although again, that's questionable whether that's a good idea these days or not. Then you have to look at the pros and cons. For instance, Tangerine and Alterna don't really have in-person locations, with the exception of a handful of ATMs branded, and even then, again, you can't really talk to a person individually usually. And also, so you have to look at how many transactions are included. So, for instance, again, in the case of Alterna Bank, no transactions are included, right? So any transaction that you make, you have to pay for it. In the case of Tangerine, there's unlimited transactions with, again, a couple of them charging you certain fees. But if you opt for, you can still do e-transfers, but not just the standard fast one, like not the same day. If you're okay with waiting 2 business days or thereabouts, you can still do it for free on using Tangerine. And again, TD in this case, they allow you 2 transactions in branch that are included and 10 self-serve. So those are typically a combination of online and ATM. So in those cases, they don't charge you the additional fee. If, however, you go beyond those 2 or 10 transactions, then you get charged this extra fee, right? So again, if you're someone that does a lot of transactions, those $1.25 fees, or again, TD is not even the highest charging one. There are banks that charge you a lot more. As I said, I just randomly picked 3 banks, and I just happen to know a bit of information about some of these. All right. So it's important to do your research, and it's important not just simply scoff at it and just say, it's just $2 here, $5 there, 80 cents there. They add up very, very quickly, and especially if you're struggling to pay your bills these days, which a lot of people are doing, it's important to not squander those 80 cents for no good reason. All right. And sorry, I put the timing wrong on these. So here's the budget planner. So this is also from the FCAC. This is their online budget planning tool. The reason this is a really important thing, and how can a budget planner save you money? Very simply, most people, and there's quite a bit of research looking into this, both in Canada and internationally and globally, virtually at any age group. Most individuals that aren't on a limited income, right? So if you're a student, if you're a retiree with a minimal pension, then you are unfortunately on a minimal, really mostly fixed income. So the vast majority of the population isn't either a student or a retiree. We're still in currently anyway, somewhere where we still have a large chunk of the population working either full time or part time, even right now. So what tends to happen is those individuals, again, research suggests that they could cut about 10% from their daily budget, from their daily expenses, with minimal impact to their happiness and wellness level, right? So if you're thinking about it, right? So think about how much money you have per year, right? So maybe you're a minimum wage worker and you're making barely $25,000 a year, right? Maybe you're an average Canadian, and average income in Canada per person is roughly $46,000. Obviously, it'll vary a bit from region to by region. But so basically, if you're an average individual, you're making the average salary, you're making $46,000. So that means research suggests that you could cut $4,600 from your budget from your expenses every year. Now, you might say, that's insane. There's no way, absolutely no way I could cut that. Well, the problem is you probably don't budget enough, or you don't have a system to budget properly. So this is a very basic planner. You can find various other apps online and other places, but it's still an incredibly useful tool. And it's free, and it's from the government, so you don't have to worry about it, having any form of spyware or anything trying to monitor your expenses or what you're doing, if you don't like that sort of stuff. Some people are perfectly fine with that, and a very popular app doing that is called Mint. Now, Mint itself is created by Intuit, which is a company that also creates TurboTax, so they're a very reputable company. However, that being said, nothing is 100% safe 100% of the time. The likelihood that Mint gets hacked is incredibly low. However, we do hear on a weekly basis that one large company website was hacked, some government website was hacked, etc., etc., etc. So on the off chance that you're using an app like Mint that requires you to use your login information, password, and as well as your your username and password associated to various checking, savings, investing, credit card accounts, in the incredibly unlikely event that they get hacked, you might not be able to basically the zero liability policy of most banks and credit cards will most likely not apply in those cases because you've shared your information with third parties. So again, always double check with your own bank on whatever financial institutions and products you're using. If an app such as Mint, which honestly, out of all the apps out there, if you do want to use an app that tracks everything that you do and creates the budget and creates your spending patterns and all that by itself with nice little graphs for free, by the way, I should add. At that point in time, Mint would definitely be one of the safest, most highly recommended apps out there. If, on the other hand, you're a bit more paranoid like I am, and you want to make sure that nothing is tracking you, and just you don't mind doing it a bit, spending maybe $5 minutes a day or so, or 2 minutes a day to just enter your information in an online tool or an Excel spreadsheet, then might as well use this instead. Okay. So again, it's really up to you what you want to use. So just to very quickly show you, just select what your situation is. Let's say you're single. Let's say you're, I don't know, let's say you're a retiree, right? Or about to retire. Work status right now, let's say you're just part-time employed, because again, with the economy and everything that's happening, are you renting, are you owning, and what's the goal of this? Let's say it's just to stay on track. And again, so depending on what you select, different tools will be available to you. And then it's very, very, very intuitive and kind of simple to use. You're mentioning how much you're making. If you're ever wondering what net income is, just it's the amount you receive after deductions. Just basically hold your mouse over the question marks, and they'll tell you exactly what it is. And yeah, so you can see it just goes step by step. So literally, a lot of people that overspend, the main reason they overspend is because they don't have a budget. Here's a free, secure budgeting calculator to use. And also, if you press save, like here you see, number one. So basically, one thing that'll do, it will save you this particular. So just to show you, so here you go. See, because you cannot see the full link, and you can see this. Now it's my fully generated and fully customized, randomized budget, right? So I can come back to this anytime I want. You just bookmark that link, and you can come back to it. Or alternatively, once you've finished entering everything that you want, you can just save the entire thing as a PDF, and just you see, you can export it like this. You can actually export it as either as an Excel spreadsheet or save, go print and then select the PDF, and then there you go. This is what this does. You see, it creates this very nice Excel spreadsheet for you that you can then use and modify on your own computer at your own leisure. That way you don't have to go back to the thing if you don't want to. Okay, and obviously, had I entered more information, it would have populated more of this as well. Okay. So there you go. So how can this save your bundle? Again, it allows you to track your money, so basically, and your expenses. So do this ideally for at least a month, and then the next month, I guarantee you there will be at least one or two categories of your expenses, whether it's going out for drinks with friends. These days, we hope we can do that sometime soon, or whether it's Netflix subscriptions or whatever. Or cable subscriptions. You can basically figure out, in any person's case, you might find $5 here, $10 there, etc. on various items to save. All right. Then the FCAC, another third tool that they have here, a very useful one, is very similar to the savings and checking account. Again, I only showed you how to use the checking accounts section, but it's literally the same thing. You just select savings, and then they show you different savings accounts options. So let's say you're someone from, I don't know, BC in this case, and let's have a look at what are some of the credit cards that are available. Same thing here, you can go with more filters. So you can select if you're looking for credit cards that give you travel rewards or bonuses or points, or they give you maybe cashback points or rewards, or points you can exchange for groceries or gas, etc., or general merchandise. You can select those items. Same thing if you want to have no annual fee or what have you. But again, right now I'm just going to go without selecting any of these more narrow focus options. I'm just going to go kind of broadest net possible to try to see what we can find here. And basically in BC, you have 88 different results. And same idea as before, you can select up to about 3 different one of these and then compare them in terms of how much they charge you, etc., etc., etc. Now, if you're able to pay off your credit card in full every single month, there's absolutely no reason to worry about whatever the interest rate is, right? The interest rate, whether the interest rate is 19.8% or 25%, as long as you're able to pay every single purchase off, so 100% of your bill off in full by the 1 or 2 business days before the due date, you don't have to worry about what the interest rate is because you don't care. The reason I'm pointing this out is because in some cases, if you have a lot of credit cards that charge you an annual fee, might also try to advertise as oh, well, look, we're charging you $50 a year, but instead of charging you 20%, we're only charging you 15% in interest. Again, It's a useless gimmick if you never carry a balance. If you carry a balance, that's a different story. Again, to each their own, and you have to plan accordingly, obviously. Right? So my point here is, you see there's 88 different credit cards in BC. Now, what happens if we were to change our search options and let's actually select Quebec this time around, okay? So you see that those 88 options, there's only 75 available right now, and those 75 are not necessarily the exact same ones, right? So it's not as if BC has 13 additional options and Quebec has 13 fewer options. Many of the options will be available in both provinces, but the interest rates might be a bit different. Some of the more finer points might be a bit different as well. So it's important to, again, select the correct province, because otherwise you won't be able to know exactly what are the products and services that are available in your particular province. So same idea there. Let's say I'm just going to randomly pick this Amex over here, this Capital One, and let's pick a third one. I don't know, this Desjardins card. And select. All right, so each one of these has no annual fee either for the principal card holder, and then if you want to get one for your spouse or child, those are free. You can basically see that this Amex over here actually has the lowest interest rate by far. It does not seem to be a promotional interest rate either, so it's just a lower rate in general. So if you're the type of person that does carry a balance from month to month, so a revolving balance, then this might be something worthwhile. Now, however, you might see or you might notice very, very quickly that that's pretty much one of the few features that it has. It also has travel accident insurance, so that's included, but everything else is not included, right? And also it doesn't seem to offer any additional rewards or any form of points or anything like that. Whereas the other ones, while they charge you a slightly higher fee, again, you don't necessarily care about that fee if you're able to pay it off in full by the due date every single month. This one has both some travel benefit or rewards, as well as cashback rewards. All right. And same thing here. This one has the Desjardins has basically cashback rewards, and it tells you exactly what types of rewards they have, and so on and so forth. So compare these, and obviously again I just randomly pick three. Look through it, spend a bit more time to try to find something that matches your needs, that is in the province where you live, etc., etc. Right? So, but once you do find a credit card that you think is decent, compare that to your currently existing credit card and see how those stack up. Again, reducing your interest rate by a few percentage points if you carry a balance can save you a bundle over long periods of time. Avoiding paying any interest whatsoever, interest charges whatsoever, that's actually really the ideal. But again, not everyone can do that all the time, especially in situations like right now, right? When money is very tight for many, many Canadians and other people worldwide. But it's an important thing to keep in mind, okay? And also, there are many other features which I haven't had a time to show you there, but again, there are some cashback rewards. You also get free extended warranties. You will also get things like air miles or Aeroplan miles, all those things. Again, they don't have every single Canadian credit card available on that website listed, so there are more than only 70 or 75 credit cards available in Quebec, for instance. But it gives you a pretty good idea of a good number of them. Obviously, a lot more of that information you can also find going to the individual websites of each one of the banks. It's just that this is a central repository. Seems a lot more efficient time-wise. All right? Now, here's a really fun and a fourth and final calculator from the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada that you can use, again, also for free. And there's a good chance that most of you have never heard of the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada ever before, because they're excellent at creating tools, but for a number of reasons, they don't seem to be either allowed or able to make their presence really known. I hadn't heard of them until about 6 years ago when I started giving personal finance lectures and workshops, which is very strange if you think about it, okay? All right, so this is basically a payment calculator, and this highlights how much more you end up paying or how much quicker you end up paying off a debt based on your on the rate at which you're paying things off. So let's assume here that you have a credit card and you have a $1,000 credit card balance, all right? And let's just, for the simplicity's sake, let's just say you have a 20% interest rate, Okay, so then most credit cards in Canada typically have a minimum monthly payment of anywhere from 3 to 5%, depending on the credit card, depending on the province you're in, or $10, whichever sum is larger. Now, obviously, if you're dealing with $1,000, let's say this is one of those credit cards, by default, as you can see, they selected 3%. So if it's one of those 3% credit cards, what tends to happen is, well, yeah, you're looking at 3% of $1,000, that's $30. Sorry. $30 is obviously significantly more than $10. As a result, your minimum monthly payment will be at least $30. So, and now kind of we come full circle, and this is where if you save those $3, $5 extra a month, uh, you know, from let's say avoiding having to pay your checking account fees or avoiding having to pay individual transactions, things like that. So let's say you're saving those $5, right? So if you're just saving those $5 and keeping in a checking account that pays you virtually nothing, it doesn't really do much. However, if you have credit card debt, if you're able to pay an additional $5 towards paying off that credit card debt, those $5 that you're currently not spending anymore on your checking account, well, then that's where you see a difference, okay? So the nice thing about this tool, it allows you to run 3 scenarios all at once, okay? So option A is literally minimum payment, right? So the minimum payment in this case is always 3% of the balance. So in this case, 3% of 1,000 is $30 or $10, whichever is higher. Now, the reason they do the whole all 10 or $10 bit is because once you get to really small amounts, you would never pay it off. If you only have to just pay off 3% of the balance, imagine once you get to $20, you only have to pay 3% of $20. Right? So you would never pay it off. Whereas that way, eventually you will get to $10 and you just pay the whole thing. Okay? So that's option A. Option B is literally you're paying the exact same minimum payment, but then you're adding a certain amount. And let's just keep the standard default $5 that they selected. Obviously, if it's a different amount, add that to your by yourself. And then option C, just you select any fixed amount that you want to pay. By default, here they just show us $100. But let's just say $30 is initially the bare, it's all you have in a month, typically. $30 is all you would normally be able to afford. All right? And let's say option number 1, let's say the only thing that you did is you tried to eliminate one of those fees from your bank, right? So from your regular checking account or from your transactions or something like that. So that's $5. So then you go here. But now let's say you've done every single thing that we discussed so far, right? So let's say you manage, number 1, to get, so you save $5 on your monthly bank fee, and normally, let's say it would cost you an additional $3 a month in transactions. So, right? So then that's a combined total of $8 that you're saving in a month, right? Between the transactions that you're not paying for, and the account fee that you're not paying for, okay? Now, let's also say that you're switching to a slightly better credit card that might give you cashback rewards or that might give you certain benefits or that has a lower interest rate. And let's say that the savings equivalent there is an additional, I don't know, like $5 more. Like I'm trying to keep the numbers as small as possible, right? So at this point, 8 plus 5 more, that's $13, okay? So then obviously we already know that your minimum payment is at least $30 per month. And again, research suggests that most people can cut about 10% of their expenses and not see a substantial difference in their lifestyle. Now, again, that's a good number to strive towards, okay? So if you have a hard time managing your payments and your debt and your current expenses, don't try to jump in all the way to 10 right away. Try 1%, try $1, try $5, any amount that you can handle, okay? So now let's say you're using that budget calculator, and then on top of those $13 that we've already discussed that you've managed to save per month by doing those things here, let's say this, you're able to save $17 extra a month. So not a huge amount, 17 more. So that gives you 13 plus 17, that gives you 30, right? And then the 30 minimum payment that you already had to make, now you have an additional $30 on top of that. So that gives you a total of 60, right? So my point there being is these sums seem ridiculously small. And obviously if you're someone who earns, $300,000 a year, there other more effective ways of moving your money around than to do this, to save like 50 cents or $1 or something like that. But again, this is more geared towards people that are really on a limited income and or at the very beginning of their earning, like their careers, basically. So their earning potential is very high over a long time, but right now they might not necessarily be earning that much. So they have more time available than money currently. Right, so option number one, just to remind you, is $30. Option number two is $30 plus an extra $5 that you're saving. All you did is just got a better checking account somewhere else. And then option number C here is basically you have to make the minimum payment plus then you're saving the $5 on the thing and all the things that I said, right? So it's the equivalent of paying twice as much. So now let's see how long it'll take you for each one of those scenarios to pay things off, okay? So in option number one, if all you do is just pay the minimum 3% per year until it gets to $10 and then you just pay it off in full, it would take you 10 years and 11 months to pay off the $1,000 in debt, and that would accrue an additional $990.60 in interest charges over time, so almost doubling the amount of money that you have to pay for that. Now, option B, it only takes 6 years and 6 months, which is still a very long time to pay off $1,000. But keep in mind, the only difference that exists between option A and option B is the fact that in option B, you're paying $5 extra a month. That's it. That's the only difference. All right. And this only difference, again, is not a huge amount, but nonetheless, you can see you're saving a whole 4 years and 5 months of the time that it takes to actually pay off the debt, and you're also saving close to $400 in interest charges, right? And then for option C, what if you pay a fixed amount each month, right? So what if you just pay a certain amount, and again, we determined that in this case, it would be $60 a month. Well, in that case, it turns out you're able to pay it off in 1 year and 8 months. And keep in mind, all we did is add an extra $1 per day, right? Because the minimum payment was $30. And now in option C, you're spending $60. So it's just an extra $1 a day saved somewhere or another, right? So this is why it's incredibly important to understand those small amounts initially, those small daily amounts can end up being significant, and it can end up saving you a ton of time and money over the long term, right? And basically here it tells you how many months it takes to pay it off and how much money, how much time you're saving, and so on and so forth. So a very, very useful little website here and tool really from the FCAC. All right. Okay. And then obviously, I mean, if you were to go back here and take this to sort of the next level, if you will, right? Imagine here, right? It's not, maybe 10% is a bit too big of an ask, but let's say you manage to cut your eventually, not right away, but eventually by, let's say, the end of this year, you manage to cut your monthly expenses by 5%. Okay? Again, do that gradually, but let's say by the end of the year you manage to do that. So just by budgeting, and let's say you're earning $46,000, right? Which is the average Canadian salary, right? So 5% of this, it's still $2,300, which is not nothing, right? It's pretty decent in the grand scheme of things, right? With this, so as I already said, let's say you save around $100, not a huge amount, but any amount is a good amount, really. With a credit card, let's say maybe you're saving your $50 annual fee. Maybe you're saving on the fact that you're earning an additional 1% or 2% in cashback rewards or something else like that. So let's say you save, or this generates about $200 of extra cash flow per year in the form of benefits, points, and things like that. Okay. And then again, the fourth tool, you're just using that credit card payment calculator to just figure out when to pay things faster, right? And keep in mind, in the example that we just saw, right? So if you were to go with the minimum here option versus the fastest option, here you're really saving $809.24. Now, obviously, that's divided over almost 11 years, so it would be roughly about $75 a year or something like that. So not a huge amount, but nonetheless, it's still, all of these sums add up, right? So roughly $75 per year in this case, if you're using, the last approach versus the very first one. Okay. So once you add these numbers up, so that would be basically $2,600 and $2,675, right? Now, so that's still pretty good. I mean, if you're asking someone who's making, $46,000 per year at the end of the year to just give you or gift you $2,600, they're going to be like, "Are you crazy?" Right? No. Same thing, if you were to give them an additional $2,600, I guarantee you they'll be very, very, very pleased and very happy with that. Now, this is again the same compound interest calculator I've been showing on multiple occasions here. So the reason this entire thing makes sense, and this is when it really is useful. So 2,675, right? So that's per year, and that's a rough estimate. I cannot guarantee you that you in your own specific situation you'd be there. But again, I showed you, I think that those are relatively conservative numbers for the average Canadian, right? So most people would probably be able to save quite a bit more than that once you apply all of these tools. So 2,675, divide that by let's just say weekly, so let's say divide that by 52, right? So that gives you $51 per week. Okay, it's not a huge amount, but still $51 roughly per week. All right, so let's say you start, your initial investment is $0, and then all you're doing is you're just adding those $51 per week that you just saved using the previous method, right? Because here now you're looking at your long-term rate of return. And keep in mind, a balanced, diversified portfolio, as I've discussed on many occasions in the past, returns roughly 7% per year. And again, most people tend to usually work for about 40 years. Okay? So how much does this extra savings represent? What do you think? I'll leave you a moment to think about this. So $51 per week, which is the 2,675 divided by 52, right? Number of weeks in a year. If you follow those steps, and again, keep in mind, if you don't follow those steps, currently you're spending that, you might be spending that extra amount in various interest charges or fees to the bank, right? So, but let's say you do that, right? Then what? Well, then if you take the money, you don't need it for at least 5 years, you have at least 3 to 6 months worth of emergency savings, etc., etc., etc. Then you can invest it for the long term. Invest it in a balanced, diversified portfolio, returns roughly 7% per year, $51 per week, over 40 years, which is the rough estimate of, how much, for how many years does the average person work for, right? So what does it give us? Well, it gives us $581,000. So as I said at the very beginning, it's just $2, it's just $3, it's just $5. Who cares? Well, you should care, because combining budgeting with a few free tools like these ones provided to you by the government of Canada, for example, and then knowing what things to invest in, which I've covered in the past, and I'll cover it in many more occasions on this channel in the future. Look at future upcoming live streams, and then again during the summer when I'm a bit less busy, I'll actually start posting, more edited, shorter videos, and those you can just watch whenever you want, unlike the live streams that are, that usually get unlisted. So that $5, I'm sure you were very unimpressed when I told you that this will save you a bundle. $581,000. Is that a big enough bundle for you? Well, if it isn't, second slide, more ideas. All right, so let's have a look. What else can you use? So this is probably my favorite online tool that you can use. About 85, according to US data, I don't know the statistics for Canada, but I doubt it's much different, right? According to US data, about 85% of all online shopping in the US happens on Amazon, right? So Camel it's a free website. Obviously, this one is not by the government of Canada. As a result, there's a bunch of ads, etc. But again, it's a pretty decent website to use. So all you need to do, it basically tracks Amazon's websites from every single one of these countries listed here. So you see Australia, Canada, China, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Spain, Great Britain, and the US. Okay, so if you're living any of those countries, or you're using any of those Amazon websites for those specific countries, this tool works for you, and I think they're working on expanding the offering to other countries as well, right? So now, the same idea that I was telling you before, right? The whole concept of budgeting, just look at what you're spending. So let's just go on Amazon.ca, okay? And think of just a random thing that you're buying on a regular basis. Let's say you're looking at, like, I usually like to use shampoo as an example because most people eventually use shampoo, right? Let's say like toothpaste. I cannot guarantee you that toothpaste is necessarily cheapest on Amazon, but let's just for simplicity's sake, let's just use that as an example. Again, most people, I think they use one form or another of toothpaste at some point, right? On a daily basis, hopefully. So, all right. So is it $7.97 for 120 ml packs? Is that a good deal, a bad deal? Well, again, you might know whatever your local store, local pharmacy charges you, or local grocery store charges you. Well, let's just copy this price, and obviously compare this price to your local. Like if your Walmart is cheaper or your Loblaws is cheaper, buy it there, right? Or if you have a Costco membership, buy it there. And again, toothpaste is honestly the best example here. But you can see there's this sales cycle. So it tends to fluctuate. Most items have a 6 to 12 week sales cycle. All right. And is determined by whoever the parent company of that company is, right? So Colgate Palmolive is the parent company, I think, and I remember if Colgate Palmolive off the top of my head, who's the one on top of that, if they're by themselves. I think they're by themselves. So you can see this drop in price, and again here it might not seem like a humongous drop in price. It's just, well, it goes from $7.97 to $6.97. So this website, you don't need to create an account or anything. You just enter your email. Always create a fake, or not fake, but like a junk mail that you use, or an email that you're using literally just to sign up for stuff, okay? That way, in case, basically don't use that email. Don't use your business email here. Don't use your personal email here. Don't use your email that you're using to log into your bank, okay? That's one of the best ways to avoid identity theft, is to keep those emails safe and secured, and to keep them away from anyone else, okay? But in this case, again, create a free Gmail account that you just use to sign up for things. Enter that email here, and then let it know at what price do you want to be contacted. Well, again, we can see that this typically drops every few weeks. You see, it had dropped on like December 27th, and then early February, right? So about 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, roughly, you have this drop. So now you might be thinking, well, $1, who cares? Okay, it's $1. Right? Well, you should care because it's $1, right? $1 divided by $7.97. Okay? That's basically 12.55%. It's not nothing, right? And keep in mind, so let's say you're buying a new toothpaste tube of toothpaste. I don't know. If you live by yourself, it might last you probably like 3 months or so. So this would save you a whole $4 a year maybe. So you're like, that's ridiculous. That's nothing. I'm like, I know, but that's just for toothpaste. You also buy other things. You probably also buy some deodorant. You probably also buy some hair products, etc., etc., etc. So whatever you can buy on Amazon, always check the price on this website. And you can do the exact same thing with larger one-time purchase items, so TVs, laptops, etc. Just to have an idea of when a sales cycle happens. And keep in mind, when you have a manufacturer's rebate, that manufacturer rebate that applies to Amazon also applies to Best Buy, also applies to everywhere else, right? The price itself might be slightly lower, slightly higher on Amazon, but the fact that you can track that item on Amazon over the last X number of months or years it's been offered on Amazon.ca or .com, it'll give you an idea when the item is actually legitimately on sale versus whenever Best Buy just has a small manager sale for that particular item. Maybe they lower the price by $50, but usually that item might go on sale between $150 to $200, right? using this Amazon tracker, even for items that you wouldn't necessarily buy on Amazon, it'll give you an idea whether that price for that item, provided that a similar or the same product with the exact same model you can find at both the store where you actually intend on buying it, where it currently is on sale, as well as Amazon itself, right? So same idea there. Again, imagine this allows you, okay, so you save $4 a year on toothpaste doing this. And so that comes down to 33 cents a month. So you're like, well, why do I care? Well, same thing, right? 33 cents just for toothpaste. Now save another, 33 cents for deodorant and 33 cents for shampoo. There's $1 extra a month, right? $1 extra a month, right? Not a big deal. But same thing, again, do with a bunch of things. So then add another $2, $3, $4, $5, and you could easily save an additional $5, $6 a week if you're doing all those things add up really, really quickly and effectively. And I'm not trying to tell you don't buy the stuff you like. I'm just saying buy the stuff you like, just buy it when it's on sale, right? And have the website tell you when the sale is on, okay? Cell phone plans. So this is a very handy little tool here. Basically, if you just go online, you have a plan in Canada. You can select how many minutes you want. Let's say you don't talk that much, so like 500 minutes is maybe enough for you. Let's say you want 6 gigs of data, and then let's say you have your own device. You can click this, and literally will look. And here, because it detected that I'm in Montreal, obviously if you're in a different province, just select you select the province that you have, and it'll basically tell you exactly how much each one of these. So, I selected that I wanted at least 500 minutes. And obviously in this case, it basically found all of these plans that have unlimited calls. Obviously unlimited is more than 500. So as a result, all of those pop up as well. Okay. So it'll tell you if there's an upfront cost for each one of these things. That's typically the either activation, but in this case, it's probably just a SIM card feed because you're getting a new SIM card from like Public Mobile or Fizz or whatever. You'll notice things like Kudo or Fido or even Virgin don't have typically a SIM card fee, but again, that might vary from case to case. So here, you can bring your own device. There's no upfront cost. There is a $10 SIM card, however, but there's no additional upfront cost. And then you just pay that monthly fee, right? So again, how does this stack up to your current provider? Same thing. If this allows you to save $5 a month, great, right? That's another $1 and roughly 25 cents every single week, right? We're adding those numbers up, right? They're small amounts, but they add up really quickly. Okay, 2 more things real quick. Gasbuddy.com. This is, again, a very useful website, especially when you're traveling. Again, that might be on hold for this year. It allows you, and there's other, and you can also download the free app, so that free app is perfectly fine to download. They're not really collecting personalized data or anything. So let's say here, if you're in Montreal, you can basically look at, there's different prices on different gas stations, obviously. So, for example, this one charges 94 cents and this one over here charges 85 cents, right? So, or even this one over here, they're not that far apart, yet you have 9 cents in difference, right? So now it makes no sense to cross the whole city, but you have, if you're on a road trip or if you're heading that way anyway, if you're able to just fuel up 10 kilometers further and save 9 cents a liter, and let's say you have 30 liters to fuel up, again, that adds up really, really quickly. That's almost, that's $2.70 extra saved right there on that fuel up. And if you fuel up twice a month, right, that gives you roughly $1.35 again per week. So as I said, the sums themselves sound ridiculously trivial, but once you add them up, and then once you have that money and you know what to do with it, that's when it becomes incredibly important. Okay, one last thing I want to show you, because again, I have a meeting coming up at 4:30, so it's a bit of a rush today, because I actually had one more slide with a few additional things, but I'll cover that in a future session, so not to worry. So mortgages, loans and insurance products. So ratehub.ca. This is a really great tool. I'll show this in future live streams when we'll be talking about mortgages in general and things like that. I'll show you how to use these. But basically, it's a really great website that allows you to have a look at. And same thing, as with the government, you can also compare credit cards here. The reason I don't really like to use that feature here is because what they often don't mention to you is different credit cards pay different amounts. I know for a fact this credit card over here For any person that you refer to them, they pay you anywhere between $125 to $200 per referral. Whereas other credit cards, like I don't know this one, but many other credit cards will only pay about $50 in referral. So because of that, this is why, no, I'm not surprised that this is a featured card. So since this is also a featured card, I wouldn't be surprised if that particular credit card also charges you higher, gives them a higher referral bonus. There's nothing wrong with the company wanting to make getting a bit more money and by getting a decent referral bonus whenever they sign you up. It's not as if they're stealing the money from your account or anything like that. But because of that, sometimes you cannot be 100% certain that there's no conflict of interest. So it's a useful section of their website, but first do check out the one from the FCAC instead. I would recommend that, okay? So same thing here, you can select what kind of awards you want. So your rewards you want. Let's say you go with cashback rewards, etc. And you can basically select this and just see. So again, in Canada, the highest. So credit scores go from 300 to 900, the highest category. 57% of Canadians are in the highest category, which is 760 above. What's your annual income? So you can select whatever that applies to you. Let's say you're an average Canadian making between $40,000 and so $46,000. That will be right there. On average, about how much do you spend on your credit card in a typical month? Okay. Different credit cards have different earning rates for rewards. So in this case, literally just mention how much money you typically spend on a credit card. Your monthly purchases, and you can also kind of narrow this down. I'm just going to leave it by default. If you want credit card, so no, I'm going to go with this. Here you go, and see the credit cards. And now they're going to show us a whole bunch of credit cards over here. You can click on see more to see more of them, and then basically tell you exactly how many rewards you would be earning in a year, and so on and so forth. Okay. And whether there are, by clicking more details, you can basically see if there's additional stipulations for that. Now, the really cool thing about this is you can also, so that's a credit cards are just one feature, right? You can also compare and contrast various, mortgage rates, for example, right? So same thing here. They're not a charity. They'll get a referral bonus for anything that they refer you to, but at least there's no free impartial 100% impartial Government of Canada option for this. Otherwise I would have given you a link. So because of that, this is acceptable. It works. Okay. So again, you can select this and you answer the questions, and it'll show you basically the current lowest available rates. And same thing here, these are featured some of the lowest rates or some of the ones that probably give them some form of additional benefits. You can just click on all and you can basically see all of those as well here. And finally, they will also allow you to compare certain insurance rates. So for example, car rental if you want, as well as rental or renter's insurance like this, or rental income insurance. Okay, so you can, or homeowners insurance. So you can compare all of these, and they explain also what is included, and they'll explain to you, and show you different types of insurance, and you can compare the products. And the final thing I wanted to show you is this website here, canadatix.ca. This is they specialize in car insurance. I believe they also had a few other ones. Yes, they also have travel and life and health insurance. But yeah, they start out as car insurance, but you can also select the other ones, and they literally will and then select obviously your it only works for basically Quebec, Alberta, or Ontario. So select your province out of those three, and then this allows you to basically run all of these, compare these prices. Same thing, whenever you're comparing price for insurance, it's not uncommon to find the exact same product with the exact same features, the exact same benefits, but $20 cheaper elsewhere, right? So let's say you save $20 on insurance by doing all of this stuff, right? Let's say you're saving $10 on car insurance and $10 on home insurance, okay? And let's say you save an additional $10 on house insurance, on life insurance by using these products compared to your current one if you have one. So that's an extra $30 right there, right? So So initially we said, there you go. So yeah, initially we had this $2,675, which was roughly $51, right? I said roughly $51 per week. Sorry, per week. So now, as I said, insurance, let's say you manage to save about $30 a month, right? So 30 a month on a weekly basis, because we all want to put this on a weekly basis. About 4.2 or thereabouts. So it will be about $7. Okay. So insurance between home, life, and car, roughly. Let's say you save about, it can be a lot more than that. I'm just trying to be very conservative with my estimates in terms of how much money these things are going to save you. So $7 more here. And let's say with the, with this expense tracker thing, you're able to do with Camel. Let's say you're saving an additional, realistically speaking, at the bare minimum $5 a week. Like, and I'm being ridiculously conservative here, okay? $5 a week in expenses. So expense. Then gas buddy, well, it's depending on how much you drive. Let's say that saves you not much, but I don't know, another $5 a week. Okay. Gas. And then on your phone, let's say you manage to save $5 a month. So that's about $1.25. Let's just say another $2 roughly on your monthly bill there. And let's just put let's just say these expenses $6. That way it just makes actually no, that's fine. $5 here, right? So this would be phone. Okay. Now you add all of these up, right? So that's 61 plus 9. That's $70. Okay, $70 per week. Now, and as I said, you could, and this is how those studies show that basically you could probably cut about 10% of your income without, 10% of your expenses and not really notice any significant changes to your lifestyle. Because they add up really quickly. Most people don't realize how very quickly things add up, right? And then the key thing is, if you manage to, again, pay off high interest debt first, as I always say, have at least 3 to 6 months of emergency savings. Again, these days probably 6 months is better than 3 with the increased uncertainty in the markets. And that basically this, we managed to save $50 per week, right? So over 40 years, that's almost $800,000. So this is my point. To save a bundle, most people, what they think in order when you're looking at saving, investing, and retiring a lot wealthier than you would otherwise, they think that it's all about finding tips and tricks that will save you $5,000 per month instantaneously. Well, if you don't have $5,000 to spend, you cannot save $5,000, right? So those magic overnight becoming a millionaire or becoming wealthy by having a weird trick that the rich people don't want you to know, those things are usually scams or just ridiculous overpromises for some ridiculous product. No investor, no rich person out there has become wealthy because they had such an amazing product and they gave it away to everybody else, right? If it's truly that amazing, they would keep it for themselves. They wouldn't be selling it to you for $199.99. The reason they're selling it to you for $199.99 is because that's the thing that makes them money. The fact that they're selling you that thing for $199.99, not because the thing that they're trying to sell you is that amazing. So like with most things in life, you want to get in shape? Work at it, right? Different plans work better for different people. If you want a magic pill, unfortunately, those things are either bogus, that they don't work, or dangerous, right? Those are the two options. So you can become ridiculously wealthy or a lot wealthier than you would otherwise think. And keep in mind, I was using, the reason I'm saying ridiculously wealthy, again, $800,000 is not ridiculously wealthy over 40 years, right? It's not bad, but it's not like, oh my God. However, I was using the relatively low salary here. I was using relatively small numbers. Imagine how much more this can become if you're able to cut down substantially more, and if your income is substantially more, and if you're, instead of saving 5%, you're saving 10% or 20% of your income. And then once you're saving it in terms of for short term, you want to start investing it for the longer term. And instead of putting, $70 a week, you can put a lot more. You can see like this has the potential of growing ridiculously. Okay. And it's just a matter of getting in the habit of doing things properly, and it's a matter of realizing that yes, sometimes a few pennies here, a few pennies there matter. Now, obviously, if it takes you a while to save those few pennies here and there, it might not necessarily be worthwhile for many people, especially once you have more money than time. But when you have more time than money, it's worth converting your time into effective, into money that can effectively make you quite wealthy by a standard Canadian average, right? The average Canadian has only about $184,000 saved for their retirement. Most experts agree that you need at least $756,000 or thereabouts to retire in Canada. Well, here's a way you can have $800,000 by retirement. Okay, so that is pretty much it for today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. Again, I have a meeting coming up in about 17 minutes, and I need to prep some stuff. So I hope this was useful for you. Again, I would have liked to cover a few more slides, but they're like a few more. I had one more slide with about 4 more links, but I started a bit late, and there you have it. I'll cover it at some other point in a future session. So I hope the take home there is don't skimp on small savings, because they can definitely add up and become a rather large bundle over time. So thanks again for your time, and I'll hopefully see you at a future session at some point in time. And take care.